everyone, I am Robyn the Copy Bitch. This is Stewie, my sidekick sloth. And today we have a question, a philosophical question. It's about content mills, also known as content farms. Should you write for a content farm or a content mill? What is a content farm or a content mill? Okay, so let's talk about this. First of all, the short answer is, like most things in life, it depends. And I do have strong feelings about content farms, content mills, but I'm also only one person. And we have to remember that I'm in the US, based outside of Boston, that I've also been doing this for a long time, since 2002. So that's my perspective. Have I ever worked for a content farm or a content mill? The answer is no. So my answer, this little video is very much from an outsider perspective. However, I have a strong perspective because I also understand the copywriting business, and I just want, like everything else in life, I just want writers to be aware, to think about everything that goes into, the work that you're doing, the value you're creating. I don't want writers, especially younger writers or newer writers to copywriting, to undersell themselves. I think that's my biggest concern, or to be taken advantage of. So if you decide to do some work for a content mill for whatever reason, and you've thought it through, and you know the pros and cons, and you still decide to do it, and it's working for you, great. That's great. But if you're thinking like, oh, I can make a lot of money, or this is great, or this is how I need to make money, or this is as good as it gets, I want to be able to tap you on the shoulder and say, not necessarily. Okay, so first of all, what is a content farm? What is a content mill? So, and you know what, you'll find different definitions. Here's my definition. So oftentimes, businesses, and this isn't, some sort of dramatic thing that I'm saying, but content makes the world go round. This is something you've probably heard me say if you've watched enough of my videos. So businesses need content. They need blog posts. They need, web copy. They need ebooks and other types of downloadable offers. They need social media posts. They need videos. They need content because that's what engages visitors. That's how you attract prospects. That's how you keep customers engaged. So you need someone to be able to create that. And if a business doesn't have a staff to do that, or if they want to pump out a lot of content and their staff can't handle that, they will turn to other people to do it. Someone like me, a freelance copywriter, or a marketing firm, or sometimes a content mill or a content farm, because the way these content farms and content mills position themselves as kind of cheap alternatives to getting content. And they don't use the word cheap, but I'm using that. But their whole approach is, hey, we'll give you, 10 blog posts for, like $699, and they're 500-word blog posts. So it's basically $69 a pop, and that's a really good deal. And it is a good deal. So if I'm the business who's hiring the content mill, I'm thinking, hey, that's a great deal. I get 10 blog posts, 500, words each. But the adage usually holds true, and this is something you have to keep in mind, Stewie, right? Be careful what you buy, because you get what you pay for. So the quality of these 500-word blog posts probably won't be at the same quality you'll get if you pay a little bit more from, and get it from someone like me or many other copywriters out there. And that's just the way, things work. That's the whole purpose. When you buy something that's really cheap, the quality usually is not there. And here's the thing, not all of these content farms or content mills are bad businesses. Like, I don't think they're necessarily run by people who are, malicious or who are trying to take advantage of writers. I think some are. I think there are some companies out there that they're not necessarily thinking about the writers or their best interests. But I think some of these content farms, and they don't call themselves content farms, of these businesses that, produce content at high volumes for low money, I think they think of themselves as filling a gap, and they are. And they're operating as the middleman. They have the stable of writers. They manage the content production. They manage the writer who's writing those 10 blog posts. They deliver it to the client, and the client, so I get it. There's a business model for it. The problem I have is that the person who gets paid the least in these situations, it's the writer. It's the writer who's making like pennies per word. And that's not hyperbole. It's pennies per word. And I have a problem with that because the writer is the one delivering the thing that actually matters. And that's the content. It's the blog post. It's the web content. It's the ebook. That's the thing that's going to help, attract people to the business, to convert the prospect to a lead. Like, it does all the heavy lifting, and there's value to that. And writers should get paid for that. I'm not saying you need to get paid $1 million, but you shouldn't be getting paid pennies per word. Okay, so that's my take. That's from my point of view, sitting here. Again, I understand the concept of privilege. I'm in the US. I've been, doing this since 2002. I have a very different perspective. I get that, other people in other places, other countries are in a very different situation, and they might be perfectly okay with the money that they're making in US dollars, and that helps them and their lives. And that's okay. If that's what makes sense for them and it works. I would still argue that you should get paid more. I don't care where you are, like, you are still delivering value, and you should get paid more for that. But I understand that there are situations where someone might be perfectly happy, they're writing maybe just a few articles a day and they're getting paid for it, and that they're making bank in the way they need to make bank, and they're happy and content, and it works for them. That's great. If that's the case, that's great. If you are a new writer, someone who is new to copywriting, and you're trying to develop that all-important copywriter portfolio, which I talk about in a video you can check out. I'll include a link to it below. And you're trying to get those clips to populate your copywriter portfolio so you can show examples of blog posts and ebooks and web pages. Maybe writing for a few months for a content mill makes sense because you can quickly get all those different types of content. You won't get paid well for it, but you'll get the examples, and maybe that's enough to put on your copywriter portfolio. And then from there, you can start courting clients who are willing to pay more. And maybe you continue to write for the content mill, just to have it there to fill the gap as you're courting bigger clients and going after other clients and bidding on things. I get it. We all have to start somewhere, so I get that. Just as long as you know that the content you produce is worth more. That's why I don't do hourly rates or even per word rates, because it's value that you're delivering. So quote on that value. When I quote a blog post, I'm thinking of the overall value that I'm delivering and the value that blog post has beyond me. Like, that blog post lives forever for as long as it's published and live, and it can be bringing in, prospects and leads and customers and doing all that heavy lifting. It's probably going to pay for itself easily many times over. So that's how I think about it, and that's how I recommend other writers should think about it. I'm not saying you have to think of it that way. That's how I recommend you think about it. So to recap, a content mill, a content farm is a place that produces lots of content in bulk for low money. And it does this for many businesses. I mean, they're big name businesses that you would recognize who use the services of content farms and content mills. And they do that because they need lots of content, and they either just don't have enough people in-house to do it, or they're looking for low-cost solutions. I will say I have worked at a marketing firm, or I should say that one of the marketing firms that I've worked with, we used a content farm once just to experiment with it. And the quality was just not there. I mean, I don't blame the writer for writing something really quickly because they are getting pennies on the word. But I basically had to revise and rewrite. It took more work than it was worth, and it would have cost a lot less if I had just written the stuff to begin with. So that's something else to keep in mind. The quality is just not going to be there, not in the same way. So yeah, I mean, I think you have to think about what's best for you. I think if you're a business, I would recommend working with, a marketing firm that has a stable of writers that will pay their writers well, or working with someone like me. and paying directly. You're going to get better quality. You're going to get better quality in general, and you're also supporting writers and paying them what they're worth. If you do use a content mill, content farm, there are some decent ones out there. When I say decent, I mean that they are legit. They try to pay. Their business model isn't, I don't think, malicious. I think it's, they're trying to make a buck. They're trying to make a profit too, and I think they try to promote the fact that they treat writers well, and try to look for the ones that actually seem to have some sort of integrity. And you can read reviews, and this goes whether you're a writer, if you're thinking about working for one of these places, read the reviews, talk to other writers who write for them and see what the experience is, and make sure you're working for ones that at least treat the writers decently and seem to be legit, because there are some places out there, I think, that do take advantage of writers, and that's not cool. That's just not cool at all. And I am Robyn, the copy bitch. This is Stewie, my sidekick slob. And if you have other specific questions about copywriting, we are here to answer them. So ask away. Leave them in the comments or reach out via my website. And in the meantime, we will see you